Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for February 9th. February 9th is the 40th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 325 days remaining till the end of the year, except for leap years when there are 326 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is despot. Despot is a noun that means a ruler with absolute power and authority. For example, a tyrannical despot. Despot can also mean someone who exercises power in a tyrannical manner, or who exercises power in a brutal or oppressive way. Interestingly, the word despot can also mean a Byzantine emperor or prince, or a bishop or patriarch of the Eastern Orthodox Church, or an Italian hereditary prince or military leader during the Renaissance. These days, the word despot usually refers more to the tyrannical or oppressive type of leader. The word despot comes to us from French, Greek before that, and Sanskrit before that. First known use of the word despot is 1585, despot. And with that, speaking of Byzantine leaders, some sources give February 9 in the year of 474 as the date that a man named Zeno was crowned as co-emperor of the Byzantine Empire. He was co-emperor as regent with his 7-year-old son Leo II, who had been appointed successor to his grandfather Leo I, who had recently died. This is the birthday of William Henry Harrison, born February 9, 1773. William Henry Harrison was elected the 9th United States President. When elected, he was the oldest person elected to the presidency up to that point, being 68 years old. A record that he held until Ronald Reagan was elected in 1981 at 69 plus. William Henry Harrison gave the longest inaugural speech on record at 1 hour and 45 minutes. Unfortunately, it was a very cold day when he did that, and he caught a cold, which developed into pneumonia, and so he served the shortest term on record when he died of pneumonia 31 days into his presidency, making him the first president to die in office. A brief constitutional crisis ensued as they tried to figure out whether the vice president would merely execute the duties of the vacant office or actually assume the office. And finally, he was the last president born as a British subject in the 13 colonies before the start of the Revolutionary War, William Henry Harrison. Rhode Island became the 4th state to ratify the Articles of Confederation on February 9, 1778. We've talked about the Articles of Confederation before and fairly recently, so I won't belabor that point right now. But the United States were definitely on the way to becoming a country. Back during World War I, Congress enacted the 1918 Standard Time Act, which defined standard time zones and daylight saving time in the United States. The idea behind this was to conserve fuel and enable the country to better utilize resources. The act was discontinued nationally after the war, but some states continued to spring forward and fall back with their clocks. On February 9, 1942, year-round daylight saving time, also known as wartime, was reinstated in the United States as a wartime measure to help conserve energy resources. It was repealed at the end of September 1945. Then in 1966, Congress passed legislation called the Uniform Time Act, which standardized daylight saving time and stands to this day. On February 9, 1950, Senator Joseph McCarthy claimed to have a list with the names of over 200 members of the Department of State who were known communists. He waved a piece of paper around when he said this. In subsequent weeks, he would repeat that claim, but the number of the names on the list varied every time he said it. 57, 81, 10. But McCarthy never produced any solid evidence that there was even one communist in the State Department. On February 9, 1960, the beautiful and talented Joanne Woodward earned the very first star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. For reference, there are now over 2,000 stars along the Walk of Fame. On February 9, 1965, the United States sent its first combat troops to South Vietnam. On February 9, 1971, pitcher Leroy Satchel Paige became the first Negro League veteran to be nominated for the Baseball Hall of Fame. As we've mentioned before, the nominations are announced early in the year, and then the induction ceremony takes place later in the year. And so it is that in August of that year, Paige, a pitching legend known for his fastball and showmanship and longevity of his playing career, which spanned 5 decades, was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Today's song is Stagger Lee by Lloyd Price, number 1 on February 9, 1959. This is an old, popular American folk song about an actual event involving a couple of rivals, Stagger Lee and Billy, who got into a dispute over a poker game. Stagger Lee shot Billy. And that's about as far as the song goes, but I'll tell you that Billy didn't survive. Stagger Lee was subsequently convicted of murder and sent to prison. The song Stagger Lee was first published in 1911, first recorded in 1923 to give you an idea of how old it is. Versions of Stagger Lee have been recorded dozens of times by artists since it first came out, but today we're talking about the version by Lloyd Price, which begins the first of 4 weeks in the number 1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100, February 9th, 1959. Link in the description. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include the link to my blog page that is called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, Parler, BitChute, and Getter. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Do not disturb.
Okay, I turned Do Not Disturb on.
Good job. January 2nd, the 16th. It's all written in Roman numerals, so I had to translate it. Hopefully I got that pronunciation close. Yeah, Annie's ready to go. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work.